All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the waiting for us. We had a little wait in between guests. Now we finally have second guest here. She's been wanting to come on the past couple of Saturdays, but life happens, we understand it. But luckily, she's here today safely, so we thank you for being here. She's an educator, she's a mentor, a leader, a problem solver, a game changer for youth in general and women as well. So let's welcome Miss Kristie Barnes. So how are you today?
Hi, how are you? I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for just finally joining us.
I know, right?
Yeah, we're trying to get you.
It's a long time coming.
Yeah, but it's been worth the wait, So first of all, happy Thanksgiving to you, your family.
Happy holidays.
Yes, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was nice. It was it's definitely a little different because it's not what our norm is. My grandmother passed away in February, so this is
I'm
our
sorry to
first,
hear
like,
that. I'm
big
sorry to hear
holiday.
that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It was like our first big holiday without her. So, it was a little different, but I was just very grateful and thankful that, the family still gets together and we can still make, the holidays a special time.
Wonderful. Again, sorry for that. That's a lot of people are going through that this year. A lot of stuff died tragedy this year, but you just got to keep going and just honor her by your work. Honor her, the people that died by the work you do in the community. Yeah. So let's get into it. So who is Kristie Barnes?
Kristie Barnes. Kristie Barnes has been like the person that I am today has been in the making since I was a child. Like my mom, my family in general are very much involved in the community. Even down to, like my ancestors back in Georgia, they were like, black captains, politicians, or educators, and I have doctors in my family as well. So the standard for education has always been high. My mom is a teacher, so my summer vacations weren't really, vacations. I was writing down my timetables 10 times each. I was reading books on top of whatever I had to read for school. So Kristie is like the product of that.
Right.
Now I just was able to shout out to Lincoln University because going to college really helped me find my identity and recognize my role as a black woman and then my role as a black woman in this community, and just trying to navigate what that looked like. So originally I wanted to be the president of the United States.
Well, see that time.
I still have time as a kid. So law, politics was always like a natural interest of mine. When I went to Lincoln, I kind of realized that, being a criminal prosecutor, I would be prosecuting a lot of people that look like me. Coming from some circumstances, that they necessarily don't have much control. You are going to be a product of your environment. However, if you have, the ability to change your environment, then your outcome can be a little different. So going to Lincoln really helped me identify what my role in the community could be. And I just kind of fell in love with the politic and nonprofit world. So after graduating with poli-sci bachelor's and a pre-law certificate, I joined City Year here in Philly.
Really?
Yeah.
Where'd you City Year?
I did Alden Reed.
No, what year?
Oh, what year? I'm sorry, 2014 to 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I did City Year 10 years before.
Oh, wow.
I did City Year 04 to 06.
Nice.
Yeah, so City Year Connect.
Look at that.
Yeah. So we was at the last group before like social media took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had the not iPhone, we had the little hand phones. so I did 2 years at I did 2 years. I want to go back. You went to Charlotte Lincoln University, the first HBCU.
The first HBCU.
Yeah. So was there a mural at that time of someone that went there named Greg Corbin? Was there a mural at that time, or that was after you left?
I'm not sure. It could have been after I left. The name doesn't really ring a bell.
He went there.
There was a student that attended and was in the tragic car accident. Is that the same?
No.
Okay.
He started PYM, Philadelphia Poetry Movement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went there at the time. I went to Western University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go to Lincoln? What was the why?
Okay, so I was either Howard was my first choice. Howard was my first choice, but the difference between traveling to DC and traveling somewhere in PA financially made me, you know, want to stay a little closer. So it boiled down to Widener or Lincoln. All of my, you know, post-secondary career was in a very diverse environment. I went to, you know, predominantly white schools. So it was a lot for me when I ended up going to Chester High because, you know, it's kind of like a culture shock. I was around my own people, and that sense of empowerment and comfortability and like home just kind of made me want the HBCU experience.
Gotcha.
So naturally, I went with Lincoln instead of Widener.
Okay, and then why did you do City Year?
City Year was, so when I finished school, it was like my first time, you know, like I was excited. I just graduated from this historically black college, like there's so much history, and I have like this sense of entitlement, like this duty that I need to serve to my community. So I kind of wanted to like hit the ground running, but finding employment, you know, as a fresh graduate, at the rate that you feel like you earned because you just invested all of this time and money into this piece of paper to say that I'm certified to be able to work, you know, in this field, was difficult for me. And that was the first time that I had really experienced that. So it was almost like, not necessarily an identity crisis, but again, I have this background where I come from doctors, I come from educators, politicians, community activists. So I have this in my blood where I want to, you know, make a difference and pound the pavement. So when that came to a halt, City Year was kind of like, hey, you know, we have purpose, we have something that you can like, you know, get up and feel proud of yourself. I always knew that I didn't want to work for money. I knew that I wanted to work with my passion. So I felt like if it was something that I would be willing to do for free, then the money would be a bonus. And that's kind of how I operated. So that's why I took City Year, because I knew that it wasn't necessarily about my salary, but my experience and me being happy with myself at producing whatever service I am.
Right. Wow. Your stories are kind of similar to why we just City Year. So I joined City. I went to Western University. They came out to my school, Western for a job fair, and I signed up, phone interviewed them, got in.
Nice.
And then that was my last resort. That was my backup plan. I'm an education major, and I was mostly with Caucasian white women at the time. My classes, but I was the only black person there. But I kind of embraced it because like they saw the passion. I was this guy. He's kind of different. So when I graduated Westchester, I did my student teaching experience in West Philly. I felt I wasn't prepared. Like I should have been prepared. So City was a last resort. I signed up saying I'm not coming, and I signed up. I didn't know a reason why I was to sign up. So during my student teaching experience in February, my senior year, there was this big story about this young man was murdered in a crossfire at TM Pierce. And it was a big major news story at the time. And I told God, like at the time, if I could be at that school, help them heal, let me do it. So 6 months later, I signed up a City Year. I figured I'm not going to do it. I was like, man, I'm doing this. Get paid off my loan. That was the whole reason, pay off my loan. So then we went to the retreat in Westchester, at Poconos, and it rolled out the schools that I was going to be at. Then I kind of know why I want to be there. So I wrote this long letter, a long essay about why I didn't want to be there. Then I ended up doing 2 years there, starting the boys club there and the boys club that following year. Met some incredible people there. That I'm still looking at it 15 years later. Like, I don't know, at that time, was Darren and Chris Simmons.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, so.
My,
PN.
Yep.
Yeah, I was on. So they were still there. That was on. So you did City Year. What was that experience like?
City Year beat me up. Okay, I thought that, you know, my personality, my background, being from Chester, Pennsylvania, Sea Pride, and you know, then the polished version of me, you know, the diverse background, being able to travel overseas before, you know, turning 16 and stuff like that. I felt that combination of the two, I would be the perfect candidate.
Right.
And you know how rigorous city year is. So, it's long days, it's early mornings, late nights. And when you meet these people, these starfish, it's like, okay, so this is the big purpose. Like this is the vision behind all the mission statements and the purposes that you recite in these interviews. Like here's the actual
work,
what it looks like. Yeah, the work.
Yeah, because it was like it was a lot. It was a long day. I know we used to do PT at downtown City Hall, right where the Frank Missile field was at.
Yeah.
Before we had, but we was there every day. Y'all probably did it once a week or like twice a week. We was there every single day, unless it was like inclement weather. We would be going to office straight to our schools. But like I didn't understand city year. I did the service, it was great until they had this end of year thing called Synergy, where all the sites get together for this one-week conference and come together to reflect and have speakers come talk to us, do a service project at the end. So the first year was Norwalk, when Bill Clinton was there. I met John Lewis was there. Oh. So I didn't know who John Lewis was until I met him that day. I didn't know who he was, what he did, anything. So City Year really embraced that experience when I saw people in South Africa, Boston, New York, Seattle, San Jose. It was like, now I understand what this is about. It was like crazy. I met so many people there. I lost my voice down there. So now I kind of, it was like, now I know why the city here, because it wasn't the kid, it was like, all these people were committed to help my kids. I'm like, wow, this is really, I thought I was by myself. Behind my team, I was like, wow, there's someone like me that's doing the same work I was doing. So it was a incredible experience, man. It was the politics. The second year was like a total 180 in my first year experience. But I came back because I wanted to finish where I started. Yeah. And like the second year was like a lot of politics going on. A lot of people get laid off because of stuff higher ups, at that time. So. And I
think that's something that's important to highlight. Like, I don't think that the community realized that when there's an influx in the politics or in the politician, it trickles down. It's just kind of like a ripple effect of the differences because, we're talking about employment changes, we're talking about legislation possibly changing, like the little things that really can add up. That's why it's really important to make sure that you're registered to vote and you're participating in your local election. Because it's great to participate in the presidency, but the people that are in charge of whether there is a liquor store next to a school or a daycare are your local officials. So please make sure that you're registered to vote. Yes. Sorry, I just had an educator. It just spilled out.
So you did 1 year city year, or
I did 1 year city year. I was offered to come back for the second year.
Right.
But for me, I really didn't want my first year to be tainted, and I knew that it would be. I got really close with my team leader, and just kind of seeing the difference at the beginning of the year and then coming closer to the end. And City Year is one of the few organizations that's very supportive of your entire well-being, like emotional, physical, mental. So if there was a time that you needed a mental break or you needed a day off, you could have those 5 allowed days. And there was counselors available if you were consuming too much of what's going on, because as supporting the students, even if it's in the classroom, whatever supports they're not getting outside of the school, they're coming to the school looking for.
Right.
The school is the one that has to provide it. It's the only universal resource that there's enough bodies to support the entire development of an adolescent. So when you look at those statistics and you read these, articles of people pouring into this research, you have to acknowledge the fact that the wraparound service is what's really important. And I felt like, I had made enough of an impact and I was still hungry for more, but I wanted to take that tenacity to my hometown.
Right.
So I just kind of, gathered the resources and still made the connections. I'm appreciative because even my people that I've met at City Year, I still keep in touch with today. I've still, go to visit. It's definitely one of the best experiences of my life, and I didn't want the second year to switch that in any type of way.
Got you. Okay.
So once I left City Art, that's when I joined the Boys and Girls Club of Chester.
Gotcha. And then now, so you did that experience. Now you're a teacher now, or at school?
I'm an educator.
Sorry, educator.
No, it's okay, because teachers honestly deserve like top tier credit, accountability,
Agreed.
worship.
Agreed.
Because I would never categorize myself as the same, because their level of work is monumentous. I am the student services coordinator, so long story short, I'm the counselor of my program. So I work in the school within the school model. So we have our own principal, our own way of handling disciplinary. We still follow the same schedule as the district because we're housed in that building.
Gotcha.
But everything else, even down to our curriculum, is a tad bit different. So with what I do ultimately is provide whatever support the students need inside and outside the classroom, and I supervise all of the graduating seniors. So I prepare them for like post-secondary adventures. A lot of students are eager to get to graduation, and they look at that as the finish line. And my motto is that it's not the finish line; it's the starting line. We're trying to. All of this is preparing you for the big race, and that race is life. And keeping in mind that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Right.
But also holding yourself accountable to making sure that you're ready and that you can handle whatever responsibilities that are going to be required of you once you cross that finish line starting point.
Wow. I appreciate the work you're doing, especially the seniors. So, what was your experience like with the class of 2020, the past two classes during the pandemic, where pretty much all was virtual? What was that experience like?
So jumping into education, I actually started in middle school, and 2019, that graduating class, that was my first year in high school.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
That was like, I was getting my feet wet. It was a whole different population. When I taught at Autumn Reed, that was 9th grade, so it was, a little different. But again, because I'm working at the Excel program, these are students who are overaged but underaccredited.
Gotcha.
So they're on an accelerated schedule to ensure that they can get a graduation time before they age out of high school. So a lot of our students are juniors or seniors.
Gotcha.
So that first year, making that transition from middle school babies to high schoolers who are not too far from my age, but also have way more responsibilities than I do, that was a big transition. So once coming into the year 2019, I just was ready to hit the ground running. I had learned so many lessons and gathered so many resources. So this was going to be the year that we was going to do it, and then COVID hit. So it was like a real big switch, because we left from school thinking that we were only going to be going for 2 weeks. I'm not sure if you remember that 2 weeks sabbatical. So we were like, oh, okay, this is going to be a perfect break. Never came back. So it was real different. It was real different. And I remember like laying in bed and thinking like, oh goodness, like I need to go somewhere. I need to do something. I can't just keep opening this laptop and talking to the screen.
Right.
So when my students started to fall off in attendance, it was easier for me to use my rapport to try to bring them back on. But there were some students who just honestly could not make the transition.
Then all the violence happened. The George Floyd happened. Breonna Taylor was going on. They had to. They had to see that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
that was the first time that this generation has really had to like up close and personal experience social justice and or the lack thereof. And in our own little communities, we see injustice all the time. We see the black on black crime, we see the drugs, we see the lack of accountability with our politicians, like whatever the case may be in these urban communities, right? Like we see these injustices. But for, youth or a child to literally have the perception that the world is in their hands, because, that's what they teach us in kindergarten and elementary school and middle school, that, we can build this life, we can create our own life. And in high school is when you kind of meet the reality of, okay, so there's still a society that's operating without me. You know what I mean? And I still have to figure out a way to coexist with that society. So I think that that's really the hugest difference between the two, because in 2018, 2019, we were able to have those one-on-one connections and those conversations and make the connections. because my first year in high school, I lost 5 students to gun violence.
Wow.
So
what was that? What was that like? Like, what was like you this new role thing, losing 5 of your students, the gun violence? What was that experience like? Like, well, for you mentally, I know, like, did you go to therapy to deal with that? Because that's a lot.
I had to.
That's a lot. Like,
think about it,
even if it was 1, but 5, like.
Yeah, 5, and so that's the bittersweetness of work. Well, let me make the first connection. So dealing with 2018 and 2019, and then jumping into 2019, 2020, the hugest difference was that physical interaction.
Yeah, right.
And COVID really kind of showed us that, we are way more creative and innovative than we think. So, innovative, than we think. So when it comes down to creating our own level of happiness, I feel like we've been able to do that. So some of my students, realized that maybe trying to do their GED and holding themselves accountable to independent study was better than coming into a building or logging into a computer 3 or 4 times out of the day,
right,
between an 8-hour span, So, okay, jumping into 2018, 2019 as a high school teacher, so I'm from Chester, Pennsylvania,
right.
And calling a spade, it is, a high crime, low poverty area.
Yes.
However, it's a lot of beauty in the city. There's a lot of people who have so much pride in our city to combat the negative stereotypes. So, but reality of the situation was my first year teaching high school. My first student was, I don't want to mention his name out of respect for the family. So,
Right.
When he passed, it was kind of like a, whoa, like a reality check. I know that I have been operating in this town, but it's my home. It's not a dangerous area to me. It's not a hazard. So to be able to experience something so traumatic so close, literally one day he's there, that next day he's not, was really hard. So for me, with my training at City Year, my degree, I know that we have to acknowledge the mental struggle that's going on with this trauma, right? So I'm going into school the next day and I'm ready to have small group sessions and we're going to talk about how the students feel. And it was like, life was just like no one had skipped a beat.
Wow.
So for me, that was even bigger of a traumatic hit because wait, we're not going to acknowledge this trauma, and you know how trauma is, and I know that it's a hot word right now. It used to be social emotional learning. Now trauma is starting to build, and what it really is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So me being befuddled of losing a student, a high schooler, to gun violence was a normal reaction, but me actually having to go through that was the abnormal part of the situation. So when it became to the point that it was more happening, I just knew that there was a different level in this passion and purpose that I've been building up since a child, So I think that that's how I'm able to now have the relationship with the people that I do and use that as building blocks to connect the resources. That's literally what my nonprofit is about, is, connecting the dots that either the residents or the elected officials haven't.
So what is your nonprofit?
Unapologetically Speaking.
Okay.
And long story short, we're a nonprofit that focuses on social capital, which is literally just the residents taking ownership of the people taking ownership of their participation or the lack of participation in their community. So, if we have elected officials, but we're not going to community meetings or council meetings, then how are we really knowing what's on their agenda and that they're moving the agenda that we elected them for, right? If we vote on our school board, if we're not holding them accountable or going to the school board meetings or asking the questions or advocating for our students, then how can we really, push that button and push that vote ballot to, say that we're producing a better life for the people that's coming after us versus just focusing on the here and now. So my nonprofit just literally provides the resources and encourages the culture of participation. And if you don't know, reaching out to those resources to find out. And if you don't want to know, then possibly, realizing that there's nothing, if you're not pouring in, then you can't receive out. So the resources and the support that the community can offer aren't going to be offered to those that aren't necessarily pouring into the community. So unapologetically speaking, it's just taking a stance on making sure that, in the most, respectful and politically correct way, what's going on and where are you? Like, what's your stance and what's going on? What are you doing about it?
Wonderful. So unapologetically speaking is where it's pretty much you taking a stand on what's going on and talking about things that's not talked about or not being addressed into a level of where it should be addressed, especially in Chester.
It's bigger than me. It's the entire community taking that same stance. So, yeah, it's literally, so what does that look like, right? So we know that we have those bi-weekly community cleanups.
Gotcha.
Where it's literally residents coming out and cleaning up the community, and that's under the umbrella of Unapologetically Speaking. Carol Kazim supports me in that, and she's under a plethora of umbrellas. Delco Resist is one of the biggest ones, which is Delaware County, just kind of taking a stance to any injustice, any bias, or inequality going on in that county. So those cleanups is a way of holding residents accountable and our elected officials as well, because they're the ones that, we are the ones that's supposed to be taking pride, and they're the ones that's supposed to give us the resources to take that pride. Another thing that we do is monthly community meetings, where literally we provide articles on our website or on social media and provide information for residents to look at, and if they, develop questions or concerns that they would like to ask elected officials, we ask elected officials to attend those meetings, and of course they're resumed because I started in 2020. And, it's literally community members talking with our elected officials and getting down to whatever their concern is and what possible solutions could be. And I think that what's missing in a lot of our urban communities is the mere fact that we're not working with each other. It's a lot of pointing the blame. Oh, well, this person's been in office for such and such a years. Well, are you participating in voting? Are you going to the council meetings? And if you're going to the council meetings, are you just going to be loud and absurd, or are you actually asking questions that can generally benefit or encourage their quality of life? Because that's the point, right? Politicians are supposed to ensure that there's a decent quality of life for those residents. If not, then that would be taxation without representation, and Lord knows we can't get started. I know you listen to government. So those are the things that I think, these are the things that I know are needed in the community, and I just felt like, Unapologetically Speaking is called that because, we literally need to, it's a reason why we only have one mouth. We have two of everything else, or two or more of everything else, but one mouth, and we know, in the religious realm, what we speak is what will
manifest.
So, and faith without work is dead. So I can say to you that, I want to be able to, provide these resources, but if I'm not communicating these cleanups, if I'm not in the community doing the very thing that I'm telling people that we should do to take pride, if I'm not hosting these monthly meetings where residents are literally able to have one-on-one conversations with our elected officials and say, so I know that you approve such and such, but I live on such and such an area, and this is what's going on for me. How can I participate, or what resources is available for me, or whatever the case may be? Because a lot of times resources are available in the community, but residents don't know anything about them. One, because we're not looking into them, or two, they're simply not provided. They're not advertised. So how would we know? If the only time that you know or hear about something is when you go to church on Sunday, then what about those people who aren't going to church on Sunday?
Right.
You know what I mean? And those are the community people that, Unapologetically Speaking, wants to house. The everybody's. The stakeholders in the community aren't necessarily just the people that's investing financially, but that live there. Because we're the ones that's going to be sustaining whatever the society is that's being provided.
Wow.
I know I just kind of dumped a lot.
So two questions came in my head. Two of my questions came in my head about you and what you just spoke on that I hope maybe, well, one is I think you should think about. one, you did City Year. Did you ever think about bringing City Year to Chester? Mm-hmm. And number two, do you ever see yourself being part of politics and running for the office in Chester? Because you have the background, the knowledge. Like, I'm just like, she let the official be the mayor. I'm like, you did something about being president of the United States. Like, I'm like, Kristie Barnes, like city council or mayor of Chester. I'm like, you had to know that. You had thought about that?
Thank you.
I'll be honest, because he was like, I'm like, she's being an official. I'm like, all this stuff she's doing, like, that's what she should be doing. You know what I mean? Like have those meetings and cleanups. She should be doing that. You know what I mean? Had those comments, like, that's not the official. Like, she be what for that? It's like,
thank you. Okay, so for your first question, yes, I thought about trying to bring City Year to Chester, but the politics. You know, okay. It's not necessarily
because based on
like,
what was happening there and what's going on,
and who wants to work with who, and you know how much profit can really be generated. Because you know, of course, these are nonprofit entities, but there can be profit made. It just has to stay within that entity. So please understand that salaries and you know like. Resources for it to be sustainable are definitely what's being poured in. So making money is always the top priority.
Right.
So making money, who you're willing to work with, and then dealing with whatever comes with that. I can't be bought, and I'm really not. I want to be able to go to sleep with a clear conscience every night. So my peace and my respect is like above all. So with the project of bringing City Year to Chester was just, I don't think that was the best way of going about it. And I'm not saying that to say that City Year could not be in Chester or that shouldn't be a move that could be made. I just believe that my method or my way of trying to do that wasn't what was needed in order to make that happen, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay. As far as running for office, yes, that's actually one of my goals.
Really? Okay.
The reason why I haven't ran before is honestly, I think that there's a lot of strength in, being a community activist. There's a lot of freedom in it.
Okay.
So, being able to say how I feel versus doing research and talking about what's actually going on and providing some solutions. I think that that's the difference between traditional politics and this new wave of accountability. I think that, social media and entrepreneurship are the two things that really blossomed in 2020.
I agree.
So with taking those two themes and then putting it in a society that's kind of only operating off of capitalism, it's kind of rough to identify what the need is versus what is currently happening and why the need isn't being met. So, but I would definitely say within, the next 2 terms, I would definitely love to operate a campaign and run. I have the privilege of having a connection with CMP Radio. They have a few shows on their station that provide communal resources and kind of challenge the mindset of Chester politics in particular. And I think the beauty of it is because we're such a close and small community, we're able to identify these patterns and then go directly to the source. Whereas with larger towns, you kind of have a little bit more level of hierarchy to climb before you can actually get to the source. So that's why Unapologetically Speaking was started as well, because, being in this small community, it's easy to identify the people that really want to make the change and partner with them regardless of what our differences may be. And then the people who say that they want the change but are just kind of on the hamster wheel, business as usual mindset.
So, wow, this is really good.
I know.
It's really good. It's really enlightening.
And I'm just dumping. I'm sorry that I feel like I'm talking so much and providing.
But you're giving well knowledge to us, So where do you see unapologetic speaking, see yourself in the next 6 months?
6 months. Definitely with that 501c3 and definitely more independent contracting.
Okay.
Partnering with other grassroots organizations to honestly make sure that there's like a standard of accountability. And not just with elected officials, but with the community members as well. Residents need to not just type on Facebook how we feel. We need to have these conversations with other people that feel the same way, partner with organizations that's, combating that specific need or topic, and then, all collaboratively work together. There's a lot of divide, and I came up with this concept first. I need the credit. Well, this person is doing the same thing as me, so why are they copycatting? I think that the ideal of realizing that everyone has their own way of operating in their lane, and at one point or another, we're all going to have to merge into traffic. So being able to coexist with each other and being not afraid to have conversations like these and share ideas and resources and not feel like, what, I need to keep this to myself so I could be the one to coin whatever, can come out of it, is the key to producing a better quality of life. A lot of people often ask me, with working with students, when will I be able to when will I want to start a family of my own? And to be honest with you, I already feel like I have one. I'm operating in this huge community of people who want the same things that I do and desire the same things I do, which is to be able to go out of my front porch and be greeted with beauty and not, toxins, which is why, Circle, which is a Chester-based environmental justice group, is established. And then identifying that these community organizations exist, and again, banding with them. There's nothing wrong with ensuring that you are playing a part or participating in what your future is going to look like. Because if we just keep, going to work, paying taxes, and not actually asking questions or encouraging, a change of agenda, then how can we say that we're participating in what our future will look like? And then when you think about, bringing in generations into this world, what am I doing currently to make sure that they're going to be okay? That they're going to be all right to drive down the street and walk back, or walk into the store with their hood on, or go to school and not want to talk about the abuses they're going through at home, or the fact that they haven't eaten or don't know when the next time they will eat once they leave the school grounds. Those are the uncomfortable scenarios that is people that are a reality. But because it's uncomfortable, we don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And unapologetically speaking is going to do just that.
Yeah, I believe it. And I'm manifesting that too. So,
thank you.
So what does Kristie Barnes do for self-care?
Okay. I like this. What does Kristie Barnes do for self-care? So I like to write. I'm a poet.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times just journaling, and then having conversations. Even if it's just identifying a topic and setting a timer and just kind of dumping on myself from that topic. And a lot of times people, associate talking with yourself as crazy, but honestly, I'm the only person that shows up for myself every day. So if I'm not putting me first, if I'm not doing those crazy things for myself, then how can I then go out and try to combat the world's or the society elements on me and my students? So writing plays a huge role. Working out was a big thing for me in 2018 and 2019,
Gotcha.
But 2020, COVID hit. So once I stopped that, I really realized that it was more of a struggle for me mentally, and I wasn't really able to show up for my students. And so then on the back end, I was able to understand them not being able to show up for school because it was such a huge difference for me as well. So identifying that and then coming up with creative things. So I created a TikTok, and there's times where I literally just go on and make these videos, and sometimes I don't even post them, but it's literally just a way of me expressing. The arts was my first love.
Right.
So dance, music, acting, poetry are all, elements within me that make me naturally happy. So those are the things that I usually try to participate in to make sure that I'm actually bringing some type of balance back to myself. Therapy is definitely a beautiful thing. Therapy is expensive, So look into your insurance plan to see if your job provides that. And then if you don't, if your job doesn't provide self-care, utilize resources, maybe you should look into a job that does. And that's just a, meaningless play because that was a reality that I needed to check into too. But yeah, so writing anything that can make me laugh or dance and pouring back into myself. Like I actually thoroughly enjoy interacting with people's energy because it feeds me in a way that I'm able to realize that there is purpose. There's meaning in conversation and there's meaning in relationship building and using that as the building blocks to be able to go out into the world and work.
So you say you write poetry. So do you envision yourself come out with a book soon?
You were giving me all of this. I love it. Thank you. This is what I'm talking about. This is the beauty of interacting with these different energies because, things and thoughts are just going to be put out there. I definitely thought about a book, and I do have a book of poetry that isn't published. I do, perform, and I teach poetry as well.
Really?
So, and teaching poetry is literally just teaching expression.
Right.
I don't want people to think that there's a curriculum of, of course we talk about a stanza and a line and rhythm and, literary devices, like a figurative language and stuff like that. And here I am going back to education. It's the educator in me. But it's really just taking ownership and realizing that your words will be here even when you're not. Mm-hmm. So everything that you say, everything that you write is legendary and respected as such, regardless of how other people feel about it. And that level of freedom is literally what keeps me sane. Because we know that, once we step outside of our door, I am a black woman. That's it.
That's right.
I'm not Kristie Barnes. I don't have 2 degrees. I don't have, all of these credentials and a youth advocate and, like someone that people will look to in high regard or with respect. I'm just, another person that is supposed to stay within these certain boundaries. So with operating, I think the best way of me dealing with that is to be able to express. So yes, I would like to write a book. Ranisha Seaton, she has a company called I Am. That's another great resource. She pours a lot into self-care. So, and it's also another group that's called Write That S Down. I won't cuss in like the show. But Write That S Down is a journal group, and she provides different prompts. And so just kind of keeping in with those different organizations that can provide different resources is really what kind of connects me to the self-care. And also, encourage me to think about writing the book or, running for office. It's really, I had this quote on this jean jacket, and it's honestly like the founding quote of my nonprofit. And, our greatest fear isn't that we'll fail, but our greatest fear is that we'll be successful beyond measure. And the quote goes on to say, oftentimes we question, who are we to be the greatest, the smartest, the prettiest? But the ultimate thing is, who are you not to be? So all of that to say, I'm literally the one that's stopping me from reaching my greatest potential. And, again, it's a level of accountability. That's why unapologetically speaking is here, because, it's a certain level of accountability that a person has to take within themselves before they can hold anyone else accountable. So before you go out into your front door or interact with your kids, you have to first check with self and align self, because whatever you pour is now going to be ripple effects and whoever you interact with or whatever you're involved with.
Well said. Well said. Where people can find you more about you personally and more about your organization? So
my Facebook is Kristie Barnes, KRISTIE BARNES. Queen Chris with a K, KWEEN _ KRISS on Instagram, and The Power in Us on Instagram and on Facebook. And I can provide all of that in the comment section if you would like.
Right. So does Untitled Speak have like a website or a page or?
The website is The Power in Us.
Oh, okay,
and
gotcha.
The link is connected through our Instagram. So
Gotcha,
you,
okay.
go to our Instagram, you'll be able to connect right to the website.
Wonderful. I will definitely support your organization,
Thank you.
And I'm definitely gonna manifest that your book was coming out soon.
I'll definitely, you know what, I'm gonna make a page.
And then have you
the
do.
Howard was the first one to say.
And then I'll have you be part of our cafe next year.
And I love that event. I'm definitely.
Oh, thank you. So that's something that I'm bringing all of us together. You know what I mean? So maybe who knows? I can take bring Artist Cafe to Chester. You know,
Yeah.
just
again, like building those bridges.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to open yourself up to new but needed resources.
Right. And I just did one in Clifton Heights of a black business owner, and it was packed. It was like a lot of people came out. So Philly. It was right outside Upper Darby, so it was the first time having outside of Philly and outside like a Zoom, so it was a surreal experience, awesome experience. So I'm gonna take it wherever God leads me to it. You know what I mean? When the need is, I'm gonna take it there. So, do you have any final words for us today? Any for the guests here?
Well, let me thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for your work. We've been friends on Instagram for years.
Yes.
Following each other's, work in progress. And being able to see, the end result of all of those, building years is definitely a beautiful thing. So thank you for having me. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
And please continue it. If there's any way that I could be of a resource, feel free to reach out. And thank you for your patience. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming, but we're here now.
Yes, we're here. It came for the right reason. Favorites work out for a reason, So like I said, Kristie Barnes, it's been an honor and a pleasure to finally know you more. So beyond the Instagram and beyond what you do, I know, right? We got to be like a whole other but now there's more value to what you're saying. It's always been valuable. Now getting to know who you are and what you going to. I see become and manifesting to it. And you do a great work with the students and the mentorship and your organization and things like that. Now I know you're a poet now, so like you perform, some point. But I hope you come back. We get and see what's updated about your business and your book. Just what we're going on because. I'm supporting what you're doing, so thank you so much. And favor those who join us, who are watching us or going to watch later on, just taking what you said and think about that. Speak life into yourself and manifest yourself. And the only limit is yourself. Yeah. The only thing that's stopping you is yourself. And somebody out here needs you. Somebody that needs your ideas, your perspective, your setback because we're also going through a lot of things and we got to keep hope alive and be positive to ourselves. And if we're not speaking hope in ourselves, who else is going to do that for you? So so thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy these last few days of November. We about to go to December, the last month of the year. Have a goal in mind. Be grateful every single day. Have a positive mindset. Get the things that you said will get done earlier this year that did get done. Get it done. So 2022 comes, you got to worry about that thing that should have got done this past year. Right. So thank you for joining us. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks for the Roman Tour to Experience radio show. Thank you for joining us.